Welcome to today's episode of Cracking the Code. Now, we've got a very special episode today with yours truly, me, Weldon Long.
Hello, my name is Colleen Keyworth, and I'm with Online Access, and we are sponsoring today's episode of Cracking the Code. As you already know, Online Access is a great source for contracting marketing solutions. What you may not know is we actually specialize in community engagement for your business as well. Community engagement is often the missing piece to most of your marketing. It's that guerrilla marketing that you need to engage people into your website and to build traffic. Most of you are already doing some sort of philanthropic giving locally, but nobody wants to feel braggadocious. And so you always want to find a way to facilitate that so you're getting synergy with both the local charities and your business. Check out our products and services to learn more about our Helping Out Locally product and our photo gallery product. You can do things like oldest furnace contests, you can do gift of heat, you can just support local charities, find ones that are near you, you can find schools, marching bands, things that you can support and bring awareness to using your own business platform and have them bring their traffic to you. Learn more about these products and more at www.hvacwebsites.com. Thank you.
This is a special event I did entitled Revolutionize Your Sales Process, and it can totally change the game for you and your company. You're going to learn the following three things. Number one, why properly setting and qualifying a sales lead is so critical to creating outstanding sales results. Why a consistent sales result can only come from a consistent sales process, kind of makes sense, and why presenting multiple options will massively increase your average ticket. So make sure to watch the whole thing, and if you're interested in joining the program, contact Mr. Dave Delgado at EGIA Contract University using the information on your screen. That's it for now. Enjoy the episode. Welcome, everybody. I'm super excited to have this conversation because there's nothing that excites me more than talking about generating revenue in my business. As Dave mentioned, I've had a half a dozen of my own contracting companies over the years. I've consulted with hundreds of others and taught thousands of service technicians and comfort advisors how to be more effective at the kitchen table. The company I have here in Colorado, we started just 4 years ago, and we're budgeted for $10 million this year. We're going to do $10 million. And people always ask me, how do you grow these companies so quickly? And I will tell you that the reason in its simplest form is that I build my sales results around a sales system, not a sales rock star. Now, I will tell you, I've been very fortunate in my business to have sales rock stars. In my company right now, I've got several of them, any of whom could go anywhere in the country and make a fortune selling pencils because they're just great communicators and strong closers. But the reality is you cannot build your business around sales rock stars. In my consulting over the last 20 years, I can't count the number of times that people have said, how do I find a sales rock star? Well, you don't. You might get lucky every now and again and one stumbles through the door. But if your hope is to grow your company and to generate a high volume of sales by finding sales rock stars, you are going to be eternally frustrated because first and foremost, they are very hard to find. The true rock stars are 1 in a million. And the reality is they tend to be a little persnickety. They tend to be a little, I don't know, just finicky, let's say. And there's nothing more frustrating than having somebody who's really, really good. Your company depends on their success and they go out and do it, but then they become very demanding and, they start kind of becoming prima donnas sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they do. So what I've learned over the years is I cannot build my businesses around sales rock stars. I got to build my money and my revenue and my business around sales systems and sales process. So as a result of that, for the last 20 years, I've been teaching people how to build a sales system. For the last 5 or 6 of those years, I've been doing it pretty much exclusively with EGIA and the Contract University. And myself and Gary Ellicks and Drew Brees, another Saints quarterback, Drew Cameron, along with many other faculty members at Contract University, have spent the last 5 or 6 or 7 years since EGIA launched the Contract University teaching people how to build a sales system. But what I realized recently in the last year or two is that for all the times I've taught people how to build a sales system, precious few have actually gone back to their companies and built the entire system. And I've always been frustrated by that because I do it in my company and every time I do it, it works. When I go out and do consulting and I'm on site for 5 or 6 days a month, I build the system for my clients and it works. We've done it for Bell Brothers in the last couple of years, who their company blew up, Anderson, Service Champions, Leland Smith. I mean, we've worked with all these large companies to develop their sales system. Now, the difference between those big companies and the smaller companies, and I'm going to put myself in that smaller company category, under $10 million, is that these large companies have the financial resources to bring someone like me in to build the system for them. And the system is not just sales training. That's a huge misconception, that people think sales training is the sales system. It is not. Sales training is one small component of a sales system. And again, these big companies have the resources to bring me in to build the system. They have the personnel to monitor the system. And as a result, they grow very, very quickly and very, very, to very, very high degrees of revenue, very large amounts of revenue. So over the course of my 20 years, I've been teaching people how to do it. And as I said, precious few have actually done it. So what I want to do today is I'm going to walk you through 6 steps that you need if you're going to build a sales system. Again, sales training is not what I'm talking about. Sales training, as you'll see, is part of the system, but the system is much more comprehensive, much more robust, much more complex than just sales training. Sales training is one small part of it. So what we're going to do today is walk through those 6 steps and tell you step by step what you need to do to have an entire sales system, and you build that sales system, and the sales system delivers the results, which means I can put mediocre players in my sales system and deliver outstanding results. I've got 2 guys in my company right now that are each going to do $2 million their first year, and both of them were selling cars last year. One of them was selling cars about a month ago, and he's already out of the gate just producing a couple $100,000 a month. Now, the reason they produce these kind of results is because my company is organized around this sales system, what we now refer to as the ultimate residential HVAC system, because I didn't know what else to call it, so we just call it the ultimate. But it delivers ultimately awesome results year over year over year, everywhere across the country that I've implemented this system. So let's talk about what these 6 factors are that you need to truly have the ultimate residential HVAC sales system, that you can pluck mediocre talent from the car industry, the mortgage industry, real estate agents. You can plug them in your system and go to town. In fact, one more example. One of the car guys that I hired last year, with about 2 weeks of training on load calcs and airflow and the basic technology they need to understand, and of course, putting them through the system, delivered $200,000 in his very first month of sales. And that's not uncommon. It happens all the time. So let's talk about what those things are. Number 1, you must train and provide scripts for your lead coordinator to set and qualify leads for your sales team. This is the most often overlooked part of the entire system. Everybody thinks about the sales process, but your lead coordination process that precedes the sales activities is crucially important. Proper lead qualification and coordination gives your sales team the best opportunity for sales success. It's the most overlooked part, as I mentioned, and you got to qualify the time commitment, get all homeowners together, and set and qualify the lead properly to ensure success. So what that means is that we script out and give training to our lead coordinators on how to set a lead. Basically, we teach them some very simple things. On my company, for example, I teach them that their first and foremost important job when somebody calls in for a lead is to start building the relationship, not trying to figure out what's the best time to come out or what kind of equipment they're interested in or what kind of equipment they have now. I don't give a rip about that stuff when that sales call comes in. What I want is to build a relationship, which means what? Means if we hear the baby crying, oh, what's the baby's name? How's he doing? How old is he? Start gathering personal information, building a personal relationship. If you hear a dog barking in the background, oh, what's the dog's name? What kind of dog is it? Right? You have to start asking questions and showing genuine interest in the lead coordination part of this to build a relationship. Why is that important? Well, number 1, we all know the relationship is critical in the sales process. But number 2, we're gathering information that our salespeople can use to start building their relationship. Imagine this scenario, right? Your sales guy goes out there and the lead coordinator puts those notes about little Joey has been sick, and just came home from the doctors. Now my sales guy can knock on the door and say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, oh, this must be little Joey. I heard he's been under the weather. Are you kidding me? Every other guy comes in that front door and says, where's your system? How much efficiencies do you want? How many CFMs do you have? They start talking about the dumbest stuff that nobody gives 2 cents about, instead of walking in and talking about little Joey or Spot the dog or whatever the case may be. My point is, you have to teach your people. It's a critical part of the process. It's the first step in the process. Without this part of the process, everything else will struggle. So we've got to teach our people how to build relationships. Once they start building relationships on the lead coordination call, it becomes very easy because now there's a little bit of back and forth. There's a little bit of familiarity. Now when my lead coordinator says, oh, by the way, it's really ideal if we can have both homeowners involved in the design process. And this process takes about 90 minutes because they have the relationship. They've been talking about the damn dog or the sick kid. The homeowner's like, yeah, we can do that because now you have somewhat of a relationship. And when you follow the scripting, which is very, very simple, you will find that you will get both homeowners present the majority of the time, not all of the time, but the majority of the time. And when you've got a proper amount of time, it's 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes, and you've got both homeowners present, you have dramatically increased the probability of having a successful sales call. And it is critically important part of the process that I have two people in my company. That's all they do. That's all they do is set leads. If a lead comes in, the CSRs don't take it. It goes right to the lead coordination department. And we give them the skills, the training to build that relationship, the conversations to have, to get both homeowners present, to get the proper time commitment, and start the relationship building process out of the gate. In fact, back in the day on a company I had years ago, we didn't have the luxury of a full-time lead coordinator. So I had to take one of our CSRs and I trained her on the process. And what we would do is that when a sales lead came in, when she was setting a sales lead, she had a little flag on her desk and she would raise that flag. And that was a signal to everybody, don't mess with her. She's doing the single most important thing in this company right now, and that's setting and qualifying a proper sales lead. That's how important it is. You want to massively increase your sales close rate, your average ticket, your revenue per lead. Do a better job on setting your leads. Build the relationship. Get the time commitment. Get both homeowners present, and that alone will massively increase sales productivity, right? Just by getting the proper time commitment, explaining what's going to happen on the call, and making sure we got both homeowners present is critically important. There's nothing that will increase close rates and sales productivity more quickly than properly setting a lead. If you're not doing that, you don't really have a sales system. Number two, you must provide mindset and sales training to your team. As I mentioned before, sales training is not the sales system. Sales training is one small part of the sales system. Proper mindset training, as many of you may have known, I've written a book called The Power of Consistency, which the subtitle on that book is Prosperity Mindset Training for Sales Professionals. It's a New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller. In fact, this is the book right here, if you can see it. Very proud of that book. I've implemented that program as David had mentioned at FedEx, at State Farm, and thousands of HVAC salespeople and service technicians across the country. So you have to focus on the mindset and the sales training, right? We have to have training. We have to teach people how to have the skills to consistently produce what I call a prosperity mindset that expects great things when you walk in the house. We're not complaining. We're not whining. We're not bitching and moaning about the leads and the economy and this and that and the other and our competitors' cheap price. When I talk about the proper mindset, it's a mindset to thrive in the face of adversity and prosper in the face of challenges, to look within for answers, to never blame the competition, the boss, or the leads, or the weather for our poor sales results. A mindset of personal responsibility and personal accountability. That's one of the reasons my guys are so good. My guys have steel traps for mindset. They don't complain about the customer's cheap prices. They don't complain about the weather. They know better to ever come back into me and say, hey, man, I had 2 jobs, but they didn't qualify for financing. We don't even talk about that silly stuff in our company. Why? Because people that have lousy credit say yes to everybody who walks in the house. I can't stand it when a sales guy comes in and says, I had a $20,000 deal that wouldn't qualify. Well, so did the first 3 competitors that were in before you, because they said yes to every one of them, and nobody gets them qualified, right? So they'll say yes to everybody, hoping somebody can. So a prosperity mindset is not petty. It does not focus on the wrong things. It focuses on the right things. You have to make sure that our people are focusing on the right things and they're not celebrating mediocrity. They have a strong sense of personal responsibility. They're the masters of their own destiny, the captains of their own soul. That's the mindset you have to inculcate in people to have sales producers, right? And you can teach the mindset. I didn't used to have this mindset. For the first half of my life, I was a miserable loser, complaining all the time, whining all the time, blaming everybody else in the world for my miserable life. And then I learned the sales, the prosperity mindset. I implemented that in my life. And if you know much about my story, I walked out of prison to a homeless shelter 20 years ago in January of 2003. And within 5 years, built an Inc. 5000 HVAC company, began writing books, and I've done several companies since then. My point is, you got to have the right mindset. And then you have to have the sales training, because the sales training is important. The sales skills, how to overcome objections, how to be great at investigating problems, how to build relationships with our homeowners. Those sales skills are critical as well. Unfortunately, most of the people that do what I do in the industry, that's all they do. They give you the sales skills, the sales techniques. And as you can see, that's not even one full step. That's just part of step 2. Yeah, the sales skills, sales training is important, but it's a small part of the process. You got to combine that with the prosperity mindset. You got to combine that with proper lead coordination. Now we might be getting somewhere, because now I've got good qualified set leads. I've got my people with the eye of the tiger, thriving in the face of adversity, prospering in the face of difficulty, right? Taking responsibility for the sales results. Now they have the sales skills that they got in the sales training. Guess what? Now we got somebody getting somewhere. We might just have somebody now who could go out there and close some dang business. So you got to find an expert in the industry. It doesn't have to be me, right? But you have to find an expert in the industry who's trained thousands of people, that's been doing this stuff for a long time. I'm not the only cat out there. I happen to believe I'm the best, but if I didn't believe the best, I wouldn't be worth my salt. But it doesn't mean I am the best. It just means I am, and I like to delude myself into thinking I am. Bottom line is, you've got to have somebody, and I would highly suggest somebody who's written a New York Times bestseller on the mindset and an Amazon #1 bestseller on sales process and sales skills, both of which I have done. So head, it might just be me in number 2. But I got the lead qualified. I got the right mindset. I got some sales skills. What do I need next? I got to have a complete sales presentation and materials. This is where the industry, the sales training industry, has failed you. They have basically defrauded you for the last 30 years. Here's what I mean by that. You go to a sales training event, they give you tons of skills, training, and techniques and stuff, and then they tell you, now go build a sales process. And you go back to your business, and you have every intention of doing it, but what happens? Phone starts ringing, people start crashing trucks, the homeowners start calling, installs are calling, service calls, and next thing you know, 6 months have gone by, and you don't have any sales presentation, any sales materials whatsoever. Because people in this industry for 30 years now have been essentially teaching you a DIY version of sales, a do-it-yourself. Here's what you do, go out and do it. Well, what I've learned many, many years ago, 2 decades ago, is that you have to create the sales presentation for people and the sales materials, right? Because people aren't going to know how to do it. If they do know how to do it, they don't have time. So when I started doing this 20 years ago, one of the first things I did as part of my sales training was actually give them the sales process. So you have to have a complete sales presentation and materials. Having a proven and professional sales presentation is the key to delivering consistent sales results. Why? Consistent sales results come from consistent sales activities. Random sales results come from random sales activities. So if your salespeople are up some months and down some months and up and down and up and down, by definition, those are random sales results. They are not coming from consistent sales activities. Those random results are coming from random sales activities. So you have to have a sales presentation that people can follow. Now, I'm not talking about putting them in a straitjacket. Of course, they can use their own stories and add their own personality to it, but there has to be a step-by-step process, a step-by-step system if you're going to be successful in the house. Zig Ziglar, the most famous sales trainer in the history of sales training, often would say that if you don't have a script, a system for your selling, you're going to struggle. But if it sounds like a script, you're going to be in trouble. So the key is to have the step-by-step sales process, the presentation, but to make it sound conversational. And you got to have certain sales materials. You got to build those things, and you got to teach your people how to use them. So again, you got to get the lead set properly in step 1. You got to have the right mindset and the right sales skills in step 2. And step 3, you have to have a complete sales presentation and materials put together, right? And for 20 years, 30 years, this industry has been telling people to go do it, and it never happens, right? Because you don't have time. That's why for 20 of those years since I've been doing this, I provide a sales presentation with my training so people can hear what to say, turn the page, and say the words. And it's an extremely effective system. I've been doing it for a long, long time, right? Step 4, big thing often overlooked. You must have a pricing strategy and menu-based price cards for your sales team. This is mandatory. Let me give you a little example. For years, I lived up west of Colorado Springs here up in the mountains, and there's a little restaurant up there, little Mexican restaurant, Carlos Miguel's. And I love that restaurant. But one thing I hated about that Mexican restaurant is you open the menu and there's like 30 lines of 8-point font of all these different dishes. And I stressed every time I went in there because I never knew what to order. What is this? What is that? Right? And then one day I went in there for dinner and I opened the menu and it's a whole different menu and it's got pictures. And I'm like, yes, I want that. Oh, that looks delectable. That looks delicious. And I can order from pictures. We have to make it easy for people to choose a system. And as I say here in the notes, while the CRM systems are vital to the efficient operation of your company, we use one of the big ones. You probably do too. These systems are terrible. They're horrible. They're inexcusably terrible for presenting multiple options to your homeowner. And presenting multiple options is a key part of the entire process, compromise choices. But I'm telling you, I can't count the times with clients and my guys, they're sitting there swiping back and forth against different pages, and the homeowner saying, oh, well, what was the other one saying? How much was that one? Go back to that one. And they get so confused, and guess what? The confused mind says no. You get people confused, what do? Well, we got a lot to think about here. Can you send me all those things? And we give them the perfect opportunity to say no. But we give them so many confusing, they're swiping back and forth between screens. So an effective system for presenting your system pricing options is the hidden key to driving high efficiency and high margin sales. You have to have a pricing strategy. All too often, contractors are out there basing their pricing on what the homeowner offers or what the competition is charging. You have to have a pricing strategy and a menu-based price card for presentation of those prices to your homeowners, right? I'll give you a couple examples. For years, I used to be caught up on certain percentage of gross profit. I had to have X gross profit percentage on every job. Well, what I realized, especially the last couple of years with inflation and now the Tier 2 equipment pricing increases, what happens is if you maintain a straight 50% gross profit across all of your systems, when the equipment costs so much these days, you can very easily price yourself out of high efficiency and high margin sales. So your pricing strategy has to be a tiered approach. I may be at 50% gross profit on my cheap stuff. So, compared to my competition, I'm higher on the cheap stuff. But as I go up in efficiencies and higher equipment prices, I will come down in percentage. Now, my gross profit dollars increase, but on our highest efficiency systems, for example, I'm only at a 35% gross profit. But guess what? I've got 10,000 gross profit dollars in that system, right? So what we do is we guide the homeowner to the high efficiency stuff where I'm extremely competitive because my competition doesn't know how to price their stuff and they just keep going up, right? So instead of trying to compete with my competition, the cheap stuff, I'll let them have that stuff, right? We're going to be more expensive, way more expensive on that stuff. But when you we guide them towards high efficiency. I'll show you how I do it here in a minute. We guide them towards high efficiency. And guess what? I'm at 35% gross profit. I'm extremely competitive against my competition. So I got to get people in the high efficiency business because even though the gross profit percentage is low, the reality is the dollars are high. Okay. So you have to have a pricing strategy and you got to have a simple, easy way to present your pricing that doesn't confuse the heck out of people by sliding back and forth a bunch of, I just can't, oh my gosh, I wish I could tell the number of times I've been sitting there with comfort advisors and selling service techs and they're going back and forth and the homeowner's just like a tennis match. Like, well, which one was that? Go back. And it's no surprise the homeowner says, oh geez, I got a lot to think about. Can you send me all that stuff? Can you email me all that stuff? Kiss of death. Kiss of death. I want to be able to present my prices, Johnny on the spot, and I want it to make perfect sense to my homeowners. I'll show you in just a minute exactly how I do it. Step 5, you have to track sales lead performance. In business, what gets measured gets done. Without accurate, timely, and relevant sales data, powerful sales results are impossible. You need to track and measure ongoing sales data. In other words, you need to inspect what you expect. I go into companies, they don't know what their close rate is. They don't know what their average revenue per lead is. They don't know what their average ticket is. And they don't know nothing. And you ask them how they're doing this. Oh, we're doing good. How do you know? Well, I don't know. Feels good. Until you start measuring sales lead performance, you're never going to know if you're doing a great job or not. What gets measured gets done. It's the only way that you can train and coach up your sales team, right? I mean, if they're out there and, there's really no standard. There's no expectation for a conversion rate or revenue per lead. I manage everything by revenue per lead, which is just simply the average revenue generated on every sales lead. So if I give a guy, 10 leads and he puts up 50 grand on those 10 leads, his revenue per lead is 5,000. That's a minimal acceptable number in my world, by the way. 5,000 to 7,000 is what your target is. 5,000 is the rock bottom. Are your guys generating 5,000 revenue per lead? You don't know. And if you don't know your revenue per lead, you don't know if you're doing well or not. It's kind of like revenue per lead is kind of like the gas mileage in your car. If I tell you I can drive from my home here in Colorado out to Dave's house in Las Vegas on one tank of gas, is that good? Well, you don't know. It depends on how many gallons of gas I burned. If I've got a 20-gallon tank, then that's probably pretty good gas mileage. If I got an 80,000-gallon tanker, not so good. So if you want to know if it's good gas mileage or not, for me to get to here to David's, you got to know two things. You got to know the miles. How far is it from my house to Dave's house? And number two, how many gallons of gas did I burn? Revenue per lead is your miles per gallon on your leads. And so you don't know if it's good. If you don't know what that number is, then you don't know if it's good or not, right? You have no idea if you don't know your revenue per lead. And if you don't know your revenue per lead, you're probably going to have skinny kids. That's all I can tell you. Number 6, you must provide ongoing sales coaching and mentoring for your sales team from a leading expert. Again, that doesn't have to be me, but I'm telling you, in this program I'm going to tell you about here in a minute, I meet with your sales team twice a month. And they say I'm one part hug and one part thug, right? Most of these days I'm hugs at my age, but on an ongoing basis, we're meeting in group coaching sessions. We're doing training, we're doing coaching, we're responding to objections, role playing with the guys. You have to have ongoing coaching and mentoring for your sales team, right? You can't just listen. When the day comes that you can hire a salesperson and say, here's what you're supposed to do, and you never have to tell them again, that's the day managers and owners are not necessary. But it's unrealistic. It defies human nature that you can tell people stuff one time and they're going to go do it forever. It requires ongoing coaching and mentoring from somebody like me. Again, doesn't have to be me, but I'm talking about me right now. So you might be thinking, well, golly gee willikers, that all sounds nice. How the hell am I going to do it? Well, that's the problem I've been dealing with for 20 years. I teach this stuff. This isn't the first time I've had this conversation. I teach this stuff, and then I go back home, and nobody ever does it. Why? Well, because they don't really know how to do the lead coordination training. They don't know how to build a sales presentation. They don't know how to design menu-based cards. They don't know how to create a sales tracking spreadsheet. They don't know how to do it. So what happens? They come back next year and like, dang, we didn't do any of that stuff. Well, that's why myself, in conjunction with Contract University, have done away with the do-it-yourself mentality. We are now introducing we do it for you mentality. And what that means is that I do everything I just outlined. We do it for you. We train your lead coordinators, give them the scripting. We create the sales process. We create your pricing. We create your pricing cards. We do the online coaching. We do the measurement. We track your sales leads. We do it all for you. It's essentially like having me as your sales manager. Imagine that if I could be your sales manager. Obviously, that would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to have me come in as your sales manager. But what if you could get me to manage your sales team for a percentage of that, a small percentage of a few $100,000, right? That you could have a fractional sales manager that has been in this business for a long time and knows this stuff from A to Z to backwards to forwards to stern to stem, knows all of it, every part of it, and could come in and run your sales department with you, maybe in conjunction with your sales manager. Many of our clients don't even have sales managers. Why? Because I'm the freaking sales managers. Save the money, buy a boat, buy a new Harley. I don't care. Don't waste money on people you don't need. Let me be your sales manager. Let me show you how the program works. Step 1. We train and provide scripts for your lead coordinator, right? I train them and I give them the scripts to how to set a proper lead. As you know, proper lead coordination is very important, but we do it for you, right? We will have conversations with your lead coordinators. We provide them video-based training. If they need help from me, they can call me, but we train them on how to set a proper lead and give them the scripts. Once you start getting your lead set better things happen at the kitchen table. You're going to sell a lot more. Even a mediocre salesperson will sell a lot more if the leads are set properly. The problem is what's happening now. Somebody calls in and says, hey, we want to talk to somebody about air conditioning. Okay, we have Bobby out there at 2:00 Tuesday. Okay, bye-bye, right? There's no relationship building. There's no qualification. There's no nurturing of that sales appointment. You got to build that from the ground up. We train them to do it. We give them the scripts, right? These are some of the scripts that we use, 3 steps to setting a qualified lead. I take them through this and teach them exactly how to do it. You, of course, would have those. And if you got a screenshot of it just now, dang, now you just took my stuff for free. Hopefully you didn't get it. Number 2, we deliver world-class mindset and sales training to your sales team. That's my job. That's what I do, right? I've written several books, 2 of which are a big part of this program. Number 1, in the middle right there, The Power of Consistency. And the one on the other side there, the red and white one, consistency selling. I teach them the entire sales process. I teach them how to sell. I give them the mindset and the sales skills. Now, remember, the skills are not the system. The skills are what they need to implement and execute the system. So I teach them how to build a prosperity mindset. I teach them how to become personally responsible. I teach them to craft a plan for their life and how to review that plan on a regular basis and execute on the things they got to do every single day to have the life they want. And I teach them not to blame the boss, not to blame the competitors' cheap prices. Don't blame the weather. Look within. If it is to be, it's up to me. That's what it is. And then the consistency selling teaches them the actual sales skills that I have perfected over 20 years of teaching this stuff. So the second thing is we got to teach them the skills. But the third thing is, right, by the way, here's some workbooks that go along with the program. As you can see, comprehensive workbooks, no doubt. Step 3, this is where it gets interesting. We create and provide the complete sales presentation materials. There's nothing that we do that's more important than this. We give you the actual sales presentation materials and we customize them for your company. So this is the sales process, for example, for my company here in Colorado Springs, Peak Home Performance. And it's kind of a little booklet, right? It's also serves as our job folder. But inside of that is the entire sales process, page by page, sheet by sheet. It's about 8 or 10 pages long, nothing complicated, but it guides them through the entire sales process. Teaches them how to overcome the price objection before it comes up. It teaches them how to overcome the 3 bids objection before it ever comes up. It teaches them to overcome the I want to think about it objection before it ever comes up. It teaches them how to sell professionally. And all they have to do is flip the pages. And as you can see there, some of the questions are actually scripted out. I don't care if the homeowner sees them. They're not paying that close attention. But this makes sure that my guys have the right conversations and ask the right questions, because that's critically important. If they just wing it, if they go in by themselves, they're not going to remember this process. But step by step, process by process, we go through it and teach them the mindset and then the sales skills. And then we give them the exact sales presentation materials. It's idiot proof. Right? We take this system, we add your colors, we add your logo. You have a comprehensive professional sales system. And guess what? You didn't do anything. We do 100% of it for you. It's the best thing about this program. All you got to do is sign up and sit back and let us go to work. Right? And we'll take care of everything else from that point. Right? Number 4, another critically important part of the process. We create and provide the complete pricing strategy and menu-based price cards for your sales team. This is critical. Absolutely critical. Right? So I will go through, and what we do with our clients is we find out your 7 systems. I want you to have 7 systems, right? There's a lot of science behind compromised choices and why we do this, but we first just choose the names of your system, what equipment's going to be in those, and then you give us our pricing, your pricing equipment, and we build the pricing for you. And it ends up, we put it through a spreadsheet like this, and we go through with you, and we look at your labor cost, accessories, extended labor warranties, burden rate, which is your FICA, FUTA, SUTA, and health insurance. You got to count that stuff in your cost of goods, finance charges. I walk you step by step through this process, and we fill this out for you. So now you have legitimate, rationally based pricing that's based on the margins you need to have to cover your overhead, not on some random number that somebody chose. We do it for you. You now have a price book, and you know exactly what your cost is on every single job, and you know exactly what your gross profit's going to be. You can see down there that yellow line, gross profit dollars. I show gross profit dollars for every single piece of equipment. That way I know if in my company, for example, we need about 15,000 gross profit dollars per day to pay our bills, right? It's a big part of Gary Ellicks's training on pricing and selling and running your business, operations, accounting. You got to focus on your gross profit dollars per day. And so every system, I know exactly how many gross profit dollars I have. If I need to offer a promotion in the slow season, I can offer a discount. I still know exactly how many gross profit dollars I have. Critically important to have proper pricing that includes all of your burden rate, your finance charges, sales commissions, permits, extended labor. Make sure everything in your cost of goods is accurate, and then we create your pricing for you, and then it ends up in a beautiful sheet like this. Now, what this is 8.5 by 14 laminated sheet, and there's one for each size of equipment. So there's one for 1.5 ton, 2, 2.5, 3, 4, and 5, up the line. So once your comfort advisor or selling tech, once they have a conversation with the homeowner, they got their proper sizing, all they do is bring out one card, and there's no confusion in it. It's most efficient to least efficient. It leverages a science called compromised choices, which you'll learn more about in the training. But the bottom line is all 7 systems are there. They can mix and match, as you can see, right? And it doesn't show it on this, but on this card, on the back side of this card is the identical thing, except it's got the monthly payment instead of the actual retail amount, right? Which is a big part of the selling process. I want to give you a little insight here. One of the coolest things about this system. One of the questions that we ask in the comfort survey is, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for you and your family to minimize your carbon footprint for future generations? Everybody gives a high number to that question, right? 8, 9, or 10. When I get to the end, let's say it's a half an hour later and I pull this out, now we're into the closing, I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, earlier you mentioned that, protecting the environment was a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10. Either one of these two systems in green will accomplish that for you. Which one makes the most sense? I force them to at least contemplate buying the $20,000 or $25,000 system, right? Most everybody else starts them at the bottom. Hey, we got your basic system right here, 11,000. Now for another 1,000, we can get you more efficient. It's complete insanity. You have to start high and come down. Compromise choices. Again, I go into it in great deal in the training, but you have to start them high. So we show them those high-end systems, not necessarily because they're going to buy it, but sometimes they do. But guess what? When they get down to the less expensive systems, it's like, whew, at least it's not 25,000, right? And you end up selling higher efficiency systems. We sell almost everything in that blue zone right there in my company. Because if my homeowner says, well, yeah, I want to save the environment, but I can't afford that, they'll say, what else do you have? And I'll say, well, that's great, because these two, the Colorado and the Broadmoor systems will protect the environment too at a much more, economical rate, right? And they come down, they buy a blue one. We never even talk about and the best part about this, by the way, when they've got a bid from your competitor for 11,000 or 12,000, guess what? They can see you got one of those too. They can see that, but they don't ever want to be there. We'll have people ask us sometime. They'll say, well, what system's in my house now? Oh, you basically got a basic system here, 80% single stage with a 13-series AC. They'll say, well, I don't want to be in the bottom. Let's go up a little bit. They'll at least bump themselves up a couple of systems. It's hilarious to watch, right? I'll tell you something else. Since we went to 7 systems, one of the things that you often hear on a sales call is the homeowner say, well, I need to see what the other guy has, right? They don't say that when they see this, because they see all 7 systems. And in their mind, this covers the entire gamut, right, of what's available in the industry, right? It doesn't occur to them there could be even more systems. They see 7 like, oh, this must be everything. So now guess what? They don't have to see what the other guy has. They can see what you have. And if they got a cheap system, you got that too, but you're going to sell them right there in the blue and the green. I teach your guys exactly how to do it, exactly what to say, exactly how to do it. And we do all this. We do all the artwork. The only thing we need your help on is, what do you want to name your 7 systems? I love to name them after local landmarks in your city. We've got a client down in South Louisiana, named all their systems after famous dishes. They got the etouffee, they got the gumbo, they got the crawfish, bowl of crawfish. They got all these 7. And so you want to create your system names around local landmarks or local themes in your town. Got a California a client, and they name them after all the beaches, right? So we get those names from you. We help you do it, and we build all this for you. You get in the mail, you get a pack of these cards all laminated and printed for each one of your sales guys. You say, here's your sales presentation. Here's your presentation cards. Follow the system that bald guy said to do. And I'm telling you, you don't need sales rock stars. You need people who can read and talk and explain these things to your homeowners. We build every ounce of this for you. You don't have to do it. We do it for you. We also build your book for your accessories. Critically important. We teach them. We don't want to just sell the basic systems or even high efficiency. I want to sell some humidifiers, duct cleaning, whether AeroSeal, whatever the case is. So we put this book together with you for you book. It's a little book. These are like 3-hole punch in a kind of a three-hole punch binder, whatever you call it. But we put all that together for you as well. So we have your systems and we put all your accessories. We go through and figure out what accessories you sell and figure out your pricing for you, and then do that. Number 5, we provide the system for accurate and critical sales lead performance. Basically, we give you the spreadsheets that you can track everything. This is an actual one from July this year. It looks like July 23rd, so the 3rd week of July. You can see we had a pretty decent July. Our close rate was down, but our average ticket was really high, and we had $1 million in revenue. We ended up the month with $1.5 million in that month. But I can see exactly what they sell in the first call, what they sell on what we call the rehash call, which is the second call. I see my average ticket. I see everything right there, right? We designed this system for you. We teach your lead coordinator how to use it. They just track the leads as they come in. Every month, we can sit down. You can look at your leads, know exactly who's performing well and who isn't performing well. Very simple process, but nobody ever does it because they just don't know how. So guess what? I'm going to do it for you, right? Step 6, well, you know what step 6 is. Step 6 is meeting with your peeps twice a month. Twice a month, I'm going to meet with them. I'm going to role play. I'm going to answer their questions twice a month. We're going to all come together as a group, and we're going to have interactive conversations about implementing the system, about overcoming objections, whatever the case is. And by the way, I also give all the guys in the program, I tell them not to abuse it, but they get my phone number. If you're having a problem, give me a call. I have lots of owners of our clients that call me. And by the way, they call me about other stuff too. Hey, can you help me with some marketing ideas? Can you interview a sales guy for me? I am your sales manager. I am your fractional sales manager, which means any question you would walk down the hall and ask your sales manager, you ask me. You call me up, we do a Zoom, we talk on the phone, whatever, but it's awesome. It's awesome, and it drives consistent implementation of the entire program. Now, I want to talk to you about how you go about getting this system. Here in just a moment, Super Dave is going to come back on, and he's going to have a little conversation with you if you're interested in this, right? These conversations are one-on-one. We're not going to talk about business with everybody in a group. But what I will tell you is he has a promotion right now that you can buy the system through EGIA for $10,000 less than you ordinarily would pay. Now, when I talk about $10,000 less, that is a significant benefit. And for the price of probably, I want to say, a mediocre technician in your company on an annual basis, you can have me as your sales manager, right? So he'll get you the details on that. If you're interested, all you have to do is type in, I'm not sure exactly where, but there's a chat bar somewhere. All I need you to do is to type in startup. Let's get started. Start now. Just something with the word start in it, and Dave will give you a call. And with that, Dave, I think what I'll do is, by the way, here's kind of a recap. We can send this out to you, this little brochure, but it's pretty much going to say the same thing I just spent 45 minutes telling you. Plus, I do it with a great deal more enthusiasm than you can read it. I promise you. With that, Dave, I'm going to bring it back over to you.
I can tell you just from working with EGIA for the last 3.5 years, working with Weldon many years before that, the done for you model is really one of our most biggest requests that we have come in right now for the EGIA Contract University. I mean, I was just writing down some notes here that I've seen kind of as myself as a sales manager, lead coordination, scripts, sales ops, training and coaching. To have a system that's like, here you go, that's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. Step 2 is the mentoring, the encouragement, and the leadership. When the salespeople go out there in the world, sometimes they get whacked a little bit. When they come back, they have that nurturing that's in there. The materials that need to be created to kind of make this thing work, that's all buttoned up. Step 4 is the easy design to convert price cards and all that stuff. That's all built for you. And then also the performance system to measure what's working, inspecting what you expect, and then the coaching behind that. I mean, you put the whole thing together, and it's making sense while we keep having this request come in. So want to make sure that everyone has a chance to type in start. If you want to have a conversation with me, I'll bring you through how we get rolled up. It might be for you, it might not, but the reality is just have a conversation and let's figure out if this can work or not. I have some flexible options for you as a benefit of a member of EGIA. So with that being said, I do have a ton of questions come in. Let me stop sharing this and let me pull up some of these here. And Weldon, you want to pop back in here?
Yep. Here I am right there. Big, beautiful.
Yep. There you are, Weldon. So
I wish I had pretty hair like you. Then I'd be pretty like you.
Well, it's getting gray now, so I'm coming up on 45, and there we go. So, but are these steps here? I got some questions here. Are these steps for the individual company solution you're talking about different from the resources that can be found on the resource library in EGIA? So, there's bits and pieces of this in the Contractor University, Sandra. What I would say is that this is a complete done-for-you model that really line items everything out, and then it has Weldon as your fractional sales manager with all of the experience that he brings, along with the ability to measure the results that are coming in. Well, why don't you touch base on that a little bit more, because that's a pretty important part.
Absolutely. A lot of the training, I've been training people for 20 years, 5 or 6 years with EGIA, teaching them how to do this stuff. We do sales training. We teach people how to do the pricing. And the question I would ask you is, first of all, yes, for the most part, all this stuff would be in there one version or another. My question would be, have you done it yet? And the answer is probably no. And the reason is because you probably don't have time. The difference between what we're doing here is rather than just give you the information, say, go do it, I'm doing it for you. I mean, I've been teaching people for years that they should coach and mentor their salespeople twice a month, but not many of them do it. Now I do it for them. I've been teaching people for years, you got to create a sales presentation. Here's how you do it, but they don't do it. Now I do it for them. I've been teaching people for years how to price their systems and to calculate the proper cost of goods, their proper gross margin, gross profit dollars per day, and go build a spreadsheet to do it, and nobody ever does it. I've been teaching people for years, you got to have menu-based pricing cards. So it's very easy for your homeowner to select a system, right? But nobody ever does it. So my point to you is, yes, I mean, if you dug through there, ultimately there's probably a training class where I have, or Gary has, or Drew has, that teaches you how to properly do your pricing. The question is, does it get done? I mean, the difference would be, I'm going to use Gary Ellick's example. Every year we go to his budgeting class, right? And he teaches you how to do a budget. But that's a big difference than if you hire Gary to come in and do your annual budget for you, right? While you go play golf, Gary does your budget for you. In this model here, you go play golf, you go to the Caribbean, I don't care what you do, I'm going to build, train, manage your entire sales team and provide all the materials for them. That's the difference. That's why we call it, we do it for you. If you go look at the videos and you're a good DIYer, can do it yourself, knock yourself out. You don't need this. This program is for people who don't have the time to get this stuff done. I do it for you. It's like having me as a sales manager down the hall and saying, hey, Weldon, I need you to create me a sales presentation book, do my pricing, present my pricing cards, meet with my sales guys twice a month, and start driving sales results. Yes, ma'am. I'm on it. That's what I do.